If you're looking for a new smartphone, you'll see that there's no shortage of options. But if you take a step back, you'll notice that they're pretty much all the same, until you see this. I'm Nick Gray, the high-tech traveler, and this is my review of the Moto Z2 Force. Let's face it, smartphones these days are pretty much unidentifiable slabs of glass, metal, and plastic, with few distinguishing features. You might think that the copper pins on the back of the Z2 Force are merely decorative, but they're actually what set Moto's high-end devices apart from the crowd. Lenovo is back for a second year with its Moto Mod compatible smartphones, which give you the ability to transform your smartphone into something more. You've probably already seen the battery pack, projector, and speaker Moto Mods, which were introduced last year. But now there's a new 360-degree camera add-on, and we'll soon be seeing a gamepad Moto Mod, which will essentially turn the phone into a dedicated gaming device. It's always been the dream that the smartphone would be the single device that we need and use. But when you take away the Moto Mods from the Z2 Force, the phone itself just isn't that impressive. Sure, the phone does perform pretty well since it has a Snapdragon 835 with 4GB of RAM and 64GB of storage, but so do most other smartphones that have been released within the last 4 months. When you compare the body of the Z2 Force with last year's model, you'll have a really hard time telling the two apart. The front is pretty much identical save for the shape of the fingerprint sensor and the addition of the two-tone LED flash next to the 5-megapixel selfie cam. And then there's the design of the antenna lines on the back panel, which follows the edge of the phone. You still get a massive circular camera bump that's present on all Moto Z devices, but at least this time around you get 2 camera sensors in there, and the LED flash kind of looks like a smiley face. The phone isn't so thin that they would have had to leave out the 3.5mm headphone jack, but they did anyways. The 2700 mAh battery does a decent job of keeping the phone up and running, just as long as you don't stretch things out too far into the evening. I've managed to stretch things out to 4 hours of screen on time after 10 to 12 hours of use. It's not bad, but it's definitely not on the same level as what you get with other 2017 flagship devices. As mentioned before, performance on this phone is pretty snappy. Since Moto's build of Android is pretty close to stock, there's really not much to bog things down. This thing can multitask with the best of them, and gaming performance is superb. The Z2 Force isn't too heavy-handed with RAM management either, allowing you to jump back into apps several hours later and pick up exactly where you left off. As for the software, you get the Pixel Launcher by default, and then there's Moto's Action Launch controls. Twist the phone twice and the camera app will launch, do a double karate chop, and the flashlight will turn on. And you can just turn on the display as well by waving your hand over the phone. But since those features have also been mimicked by other manufacturers, the only real unique feature offered by the Z2 Force is its Shatter Shield display. It uses plastic instead of Gorilla Glass, but that means that it will not crack if you drop the phone. Naturally, I put it to the test, dropping it a half dozen times on rocks, concrete, and even wood. The body of the phone definitely shows its battle scars, but despite a few surface scratches, the display of the phone is still intact and, more importantly, still functional. Lenovo is actually so confident that the display will live up to your daily use and abuse that it's even offering a 4-year warranty, so you shouldn't ever have to worry. And as for the display panel itself, you're looking at a 5.5-inch Quad HD P-OLED panel. It's sharp, vibrant, and viewing angles are pretty good, but I am a little disappointed with its brightness levels when viewed in direct sunlight. If you've been following Moto devices for the past few years, you're probably already aware that they're not known for producing great cameras. In an attempt to remedy that, the Z2 Force has built in 2 12-megapixel sensors on the back for its main camera, which copy the setup Huawei has been using for the past few years on its flagship devices. One sensor captures RGB data, while the other captures monochrome light data. The phone then uses both shots to create a single image. Now I could say this, the Z2 Force has the best camera on any Moto device ever produced. But there's more to the story, and it's not good news. While they copied Huawei's setup, the photo quality itself isn't on the same level as what you get from a Huawei device. Daytime shots are pretty good, but you often get let down by highlights that are completely blown out. But low light performance just isn't good. I chalk this one up to the lack of optical image stabilization. Since the shutter can't stay open long enough to let the light in, the ISO gets cranked up. This leaves you with a grainy shot that's darker than what you would actually expect from most other devices these days. Simply stated, disappointing. The good news is that the selfies from the Z2 Force turn out pretty good. It only has a 5 megapixel sensor, but it captures decent dynamic range, and its wide-angle lenses allows you to pull in more of your surroundings or other people in your shots. And the cherry on top is that there's a two-tone LED flash up front, which is bright enough to light up a room. For my final verdict, I'd say that the Z2 Force gets a passing score. It's not a bad phone, but it's a little bit of a letdown when we've had so many great devices this year already. The only two reasons I'd recommend this phone to you is if you drop your phone on a regular basis, or if you're really into the modular concept. Just be aware though, that you are paying a pretty premium for both of those features. Thank you so much for watching. Leave me a comment below and let me know what you think of this device as well. And if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I've got more reviews on the way. I'll catch you in the next one.